How's it going, Magpies? Magpie Leon here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Halo 2 and Halo 2 Anniversary later on in the video, and why I love both games. I did this with Combat Evolved quite recently, and obviously I'll be doing it with other Halo games later on down the line. Today's star of the show is Halo 2. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. So before I really get into the meat of the video, let me just set a little bit of backstory for you all. Now, my parents both play Halo. They've been playing it since Combat Evolved released, so it was kind of guaranteed that I too would play Halo. And, you know, that happened. I've pretty much been playing Halo since I've been able to get my hands around a controller. And I know that probably sounds like the type of thing you'd hear in like a movie or a TV show, but every word is true. Since Combat Evolved is a little bit older than me, Halo 2 is the first one that I really got into. Yeah, I have a lot of nostalgia for this game, as it's really my first Halo game, and it's the one that I'd say more than likely got me into the series. And, you know, it's for good reason. I'm just going to say it now without explaining everything that we will be talking about. I love Halo 2. I love Halo 2 Anniversary. I will obviously go over why. I'm just letting you know now. I love them. I think they're both great, and for good reason. They're great games, and I think Bungie did a great job, and 343 did a great job with Anniversary. Anyway, let's talk about the campaign first. I think Halo 2's campaign is a major step up over Combat Evolved. The issues that I have with Combat Evolved, which I said in that video, is that at times I think, especially with the earlier levels, it can feel a bit slow, and its story at times doesn't feel as present, although it does have a lot of environmental storytelling and stuff like that, which is something I don't really think I mentioned. I do think Combat Evolved has like very good environmental storytelling, but at times I do think that Combat Evolved just felt a bit slower overall, especially within its campaign. But Halo 2 I don't think suffers from this as much. There is certain parts of the games where I find after you fought a wave of enemies, you're sitting there waiting for about 5 minutes for to be able to do the next objective, which can really damage the pacing. But overall, I don't think things feel as slow. Like the first level of the game, it's pretty much. I mean, then again, so is Combat Evolved, but it's straight into action. Although the first level itself, I'm not as fond of, as it does kind of feel a bit too similar to the first level of Halo 1. I do think they did this to sort of create a sense of familiarity. Did I say that right? You know what I mean. It allows the player to sort of recognise it straight away and sort of get what's going to happen. Throughout the game, obviously, you know, I think the levels are really fun. Some of my favourites are obviously, I think, Metropolis. The opening for that level where you're just driving up the big giant bridge on a Scorpion, blowing up ghosts and wraiths as like the phantoms fly past, and then later on in the level you fight the Scarab. That level's amazing. So I haven't really got any complaints there. Delta Halo I think is another really fun level. It's very vibrant and it's a nice contrast to some of the earlier levels. I think it's just a really fun level and I really enjoy it. And obviously also introduced the Arbiter. I think, although I know at the time, obviously I was young, so I wasn't really within the heat of everything. I know a lot of people didn't like the Arbiter and didn't like playing as someone other than Chief, which I apply that logic to Halo 5. I love playing as Chief. Chief's obviously, I mean, Chief's not just my favourite Halo character, he's like my favourite fictional character. And speaking of Chief, obviously, his armour in this looked a lot better than it did in Combat Evolved, I think, the Mark 6. Although I love using the Mark 5 in multiplayer and stuff, as far as his Chief's armour goes in campaign, yeah, I think Halo 2, Halo 3 Mark 6 looks amazing, and obviously Infinite Mark 6 also looks fantastic. But yeah, introduce the Arbiter, and I think the Arbiter is a really cool character, and obviously I do hope we get to see more of him in the future. I enjoy the Arbiter levels. It's nice, it was nice to get a bit of insight into the livelihood of the Covenant. I think that was really cool, and seeing how they sort of function. Even though it's only brief glimpses, I do think it was really cool, and it's a nice contrast. I mean, hey, it's a really good way to introduce the energy sword to players. I know you can technically get it earlier on, but it was cool. I thought it was really fun. I think as well, obviously, like fighting the heretics and stuff as the Arbiter was also really cool. Although it would have been cool if we got the chance to fight humans. I think that is a bit of a missed opportunity. Since we got to play as the Covenant, it would have been cool if we got to fight the other side and sort of see how the war is affecting both sides a bit more in depth. So, although that's something I would have loved to have seen, you know, I do think it's a bit of a missed opportunity. But, hey, that was ages ago. I'm not here to talk about what they could have done better. But I probably will. Anyway, speaking of the levels where you fight the heretics, that sort of moves me on to another point. Like, obviously I've got quite a few memories of this game. Once again, although I was quite young when I originally played it, one of the things that does stick with me is I used to play it a lot with my uncle, who's just a little bit older than I am, and we used to play the, well, is it the first level as the Arbiter, where you could just stand on the conveyor belts, and we'd wipe out all the enemies in the room, and we just stand on the conveyor belts as we just fall to our deaths. We found it hilarious for some reason. I don't know, maybe the fact that I was standing still but actually still moving just baffled my little child brain. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. I was a kid. Can you blame me? Another thing as well that just made its campaign and just everything about the game so much better, something that pretty much every Halo game gets right, it's music. I think Halo 2 has a vastly superior soundtrack to Combat Evolved. Combat Evolved obviously laid the groundworks and does have some amazing music, but I just think a lot of the music in Halo 2 was far superior. Like, I think I do prefer the Gungnir mix over the Halo 1 Mjolnir mix, but yeah, I think Halo 2, amazing soundtrack, just like every Halo game, well, most Halo games. It's got great music. I can't really say too much other than the fact that I think the music is amazing. I don't really think there's a bad piece of music in it. And just one last thing about the campaign and stuff is obviously introduced some new enemies like the Brutes, some other great characters as well. I think Tartarus was really cool. It's nice that they did attempt to do some boss fights. It's just a shame that the boss fights were a little underwhelming. I do think Tartarus was a good boss fight. Not great by any means, but it was fun. As well as the heretic leader. He's very underwhelming as a boss. It was a cool concept, it just a bit of a poor execution, I suppose. Gravemind I thought is really cool. Even his original design, yeah, he made look like a giant piranha plant, but I don't think he's bad. I don't think it's a bad design. It was cool. It was it sort of shows this like almost organic plant-like nature that they wanted the Flood to sort of be associated with originally. And then his Halo 2 Anniversary design just looks terrifying, and I think it's amazing. And once again, I wish we got a Gravemind boss fight. I think that would have been so cool if we had that in Halo 2 or 3. That it's such a missed opportunity. Like it's a bit of a waste, really. And obviously, it expanded upon Johnson too, and Johnson is very cool. In terms of like new features and stuff that we got, you know, dual wielding was a thing, and dual wielding's fun. Although it did make some weapons kind of crap, like the Halo 2 Magnum. Do I really need to say too much about the Halo 2 Magnum? To be honest, although it's a really bad gun, I try to use it whenever I can. I find it really fun to use. I like just running around and spraying everything, dual wielding the Halo 2 Magnum. I think it's really fun, even if it is really bad. I think it's very good in Halo 2 Anniversary Infection. Like when you've just got like hordes of infected run at you because of its rate of fire. As long as you can land headshots with it, you're sorted. And I think that's really fun and really cool to pull off. And then obviously the other big one in general is playable elites. And playable elites were really cool in the multiplayer and, you know, in the campaign. It's weird saying this knowing that neither of these features are going to be an infinite. I do think, just a quick side note regarding the playable elites and infinite and stuff, I do think we'll get them eventually. I think they'll more than likely do a playable Arbiter DLC, and when that comes out, you'll get your playable elites in the multiplayer. At least I hope that's what will happen. I do find it strange that Halo 2 and 3 had a big sort of focus on the brutes as well, and we never got playable brutes. So maybe that'll be something we get in Infinite too. But anyway, yeah, I think playable elites were really cool for the multiplayer, especially because it was like, it shows that there's a lot more to Halo than just Spartans. And I think that was really cool. And although I do wish we did get even more playable species, or like in Halo 3 I wish we had even more armor for them and stuff. I hope that's something that comes to Master Chief Collection down the line. You know, I think it's cool. But obviously, speaking of playable elites in the multiplayer, let's talk about Halo 2's multiplayer. Like Halo 1, I enjoy Halo 2's because it feels quite hectic at times. I think it's very fun when it can get hectic, but at the same time it can also get very stressful when it's hectic. But overall, I do think Halo 2's multiplayer was an improvement over Combat Evolved. I think it does a lot of stuff right. Dual wielding definitely created some unique combat scenarios, and recording the footage for this video, I got very stressed because I forgot how annoying Halo 2's multiplayer can be at times. that doesn't mean that I think any less of it. I do still think it's really fun, like, sort of in its peak. Like, that didn't really make as much sense as I wanted it to. I think Halo 2 multiplayer is fun. I think it's definitely better than Halo 1's. It doesn't feel as slow. Granted, Halo 1's multiplayer actually feels faster than most Halo multiplayers at times when it wants to, but overall I do think it's a lot more enjoyable than Combat Evolved's multiplayer, and it definitely improved on a lot of flaws that had. Since I think I've covered everything I wanted to with the base Halo 2, it's time to move on to Halo 2 Anniversary. And wow, this video is starting to be longer than I expected it to be. I'm completely okay with that until I have to edit it. Moving on. I think Halo 2 Anniversary is really cool, and I was very excited for it when it was announced, because obviously at the time, you know, I loved Halo 2 anyway. I'm still undecided whether or not Halo 2 or Halo 3 is my favourite Halo, because I think I prefer the multiplayer of Halo 2, but probably Halo 3's campaign, but I'll talk more about that when I cover Halo 3. Halo 2 Anniversary, I think it's really cool, and obviously Master Chief Collection definitely had a somewhat not very good launch. Whenever I could get into a game of Halo 2 Anniversary, or whenever I could get on the campaign for it, I thought it was really fun and I loved it. I think the maps are great. Seeing like sort of a big cool remastered Blood Gulch, that was awesome, and like with the big EMPs on the bases, I think it's really cool. I think one thing that I love about Halo 2 Anniversary is that sort of opening cutscene when you play it with the Arbiter talking to Locke. I think not only was it a good way to sort of set it up as it's almost as if the Arbiter is supposed to be telling Locke the events of Halo 2 and 3. I think that's really cool, but it also sort of hinted at things for Halo 5, and it did give me hope for the time being that Halo 5 was going to go back to a classic art style, because I was like, well, that's the new character, that's Halo 5 character, but those elites are classic elites, so surely, and then they didn't, and then I was sad, but that doesn't mean that, you know, I still think this Halo 2 Anniversary cutscene was really cool. It made Locke and his team sort of feel really mysterious, and I really wanted to know more about them. And then I didn't like them, except Buck. Buck's still cool. Yeah, I think Halo 2 Anniversary multiplayer 2 in general, really fun. And it's probably, in my opinion, the best modern Halo multiplayer. It still feels enough like Halo, but it still feels modernized and fun and fast-paced. It's got some great maps. Halo 2 in general obviously has some amazing multiplayer maps, some that I do hope get brought back in the future. But Halo 2 Anniversary, you know, even the weapons and everything, the weapons in it are just fun to use. It's very fun to play game, and I really enjoy it. I'd say that out of the modern era Halo games, Halo 2 Anniversary is probably my favourite one to play. I do hope later on down the line we get some new Halo 2 Anniversary customization for Master Chief Collection. We've been getting a lot of Halo 3 content, which I don't have a problem with that. I love having Halo 3 content and obviously the Bits of Reach content, but I would like to see some Halo 2 Anniversary stuff. I get that they probably don't want to touch regular Halo 2 down to its code being a mess, but that doesn't really, I don't understand why we haven't had any new Halo 2 Anniversary stuff other than the fact that we can change our stuff a bit more in depth. I'd love to see some new Elite armor and new Spartan armor. I mean, even if it's just some Halo 4 armor ported into Halo 2 Anniversary, I'd be okay with that, because it just means that you can give a bit more personality to your Spartan. That is something I'd love to see in the future, and I really hope that is something we get in Master Chief Collection. As much as I love the Halo 3 content, please 343, give me some new Halo 2 Anniversary stuff. Anyway, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about there. I've spoke about every bit of the game that I wanted to cover, and I think I've gone over pretty much why I love the games. I think Halo 2, Halo 2 Anniversary are both very fun. Like, I really enjoy them. I've grown up playing Halo 2. Well, I've grown up playing every Halo, but Halo 2 for me was my first Halo game, so I do have a lot of nostalgia for it, and maybe I'm being a little bit biased about some stuff because I have nostalgia for it. But that's the case with everyone, isn't it, really? You know, a lot of people prefer Combat Evolved because that was their first Halo game. Some people have played Halo 5 for their first Halo game and prefer that one. You know, that's a thing. Some people prefer Reach, some people prefer Halo 3. You know, everyone has a preference. I really don't know which Halo game is my favourite, but it is definitely more than likely between Halo 2 or 3. Anyway, next time we'll cover Halo 3 when that video comes, and I'll talk about all the new Halo 3 content in Master Chief Collection with that, and my opinion on all that sort of stuff. So, look forward to that. If you're new here, subscribe. and stick notifications on to keep up with when I do upload more of these videos. And until then, I'll catch you all in the next one.